Commander Eliana Reyes stared at the hologram hovering above the United Earth Defense Council table. The alien vessel, if you could call something the size of Luna a vessel, had appeared in Earth's orbit without warning 3 days ago. All attempts at communication had been met with silence until now. The being in the hologram was roughly humanoid but stood nearly 3 meters tall. Its skin was the iridescent black of deep space with pinpricks of light that seemed to shift and twinkle like stars. 6 eyes arranged in a hexagonal pattern glowed with an unsettling violet light. "I am Supreme Overlord Xal'Thuun of the Ascendancy," it said, its voice resonating not through speakers but directly in their minds. "Your species has been evaluated and found unworthy of continued existence. You will be harvested for your genetic material and your planet repurposed. Resistance is futile. Surrender is irrelevant. You have 5 of your Earth days to make peace with your inevitable extinction." The transmission cut abruptly. Silence hung heavy in the council chamber. General Wyman was the first to speak. "Well, that was dramatic." Eliana couldn't help the bitter laugh that escaped her lips. "Dramatic, yes. But I don't think they're bluffing." Commander Reyes, Director Chen of the Global Science Directorate, turned to her. "Your assessment?" Eliana took a deep breath. At 38, she was the youngest commander in Earth's unified military and had earned her position through a combination of tactical brilliance and unconventional thinking. Her mixed Filipino-Mexican heritage had given her both a unique perspective and the resilience to overcome the many obstacles in her path. Their technology is clearly centuries beyond ours. That ship, if it even is a ship, appeared without triggering any of our long-range sensors. It's generating gravitational distortions that should be impossible. And they just casually beamed a psychic hologram into our most secure facility on Earth. She paused. But they made one critical mistake. "And what's that, Commander?" President Okafor asked. Eliana leaned forward, her dark eyes intense. "They gave us time. 5 days. If they're so overwhelmingly superior, why not just wipe us out immediately? Either they're arrogant, they're bound by some protocol we don't understand, or they're not as invincible as they want us to believe," finished Dr. Maya Srinivasan, Earth's leading xenobiologist. "Perhaps they need time to prepare something." "Either way," Eliana said, "we have 5 days to figure out how to survive. And I intend to use every second." Dr. Sanjay Khan, Earth's premier quantum physicist, hadn't slept in 36 hours. His lab at the International Science Center in Geneva was littered with empty coffee cups and discarded simulations. On his main screen, data from the alien vessel streamed in continuously. "It doesn't make sense," he muttered to himself. "These energy signatures violate every law of physics we know." His assistant, Dr. Wei, looked up from her own workstation. "Maybe that's the point, Sanjay. Maybe our understanding of physics is just incomplete." Sanjay ran a hand through his disheveled hair. "No, it's more than that. Look at these patterns." He pulled up a series of waveforms. "These energy fluctuations, they're almost organic." Wei frowned, studying the display. "Like a heartbeat?" "More like a neural network," Sanjay said, excitement creeping into his voice despite the circumstances. "I think the ship itself might be alive, or at least partially biological. But that would mean it might have vulnerabilities we haven't considered," Sanjay completed her thought. "I need to speak with Commander Reyes immediately." Eliana was reviewing the latest tactical simulations when her secure comm pinged. All of them ended the same way: total human defeat. Earth's combined military might wouldn't even scratch the alien vessel. Dr. Khan's face appeared on her screen, his eyes wide with excitement. "Commander, I've found something. The alien ship, it's partially organic. It has a neural structure similar to a massive brain." Eliana felt the first stirrings of hope. "Can we exploit that somehow?" "Possibly. All organic systems have vulnerabilities, metabolic requirements, electrical impulses that can be disrupted. I'm still working out the details, but it's a start," Eliana said firmly. "Keep working, Doctor. I'll route additional resources your way." After ending the call, Eliana turned to the window of her office at UED headquarters in Nairobi. The alien vessel was visible even in daylight, a dark blot against the blue sky, like a malevolent eye watching humanity's final days. "You made a mistake," she whispered to the distant threat. "You should have killed us when you had the chance." The global war room buzzed with activity. For days had passed since the Overlord's announcement. One day remained before humanity's supposed extinction. Eliana stood at the central command table, surrounded by the best minds Earth had to offer. Dr. Khan was explaining his breakthrough. The vessel's neural network operates on quantum principles, specifically entangled particles that communicate instantaneously across its entire structure. It's brilliant, really. It allows the ship to function as a single organism, reacting to threats with no delay. "That's fascinating, Doctor," General Wyman said, his patience wearing thin, "but how does this help us fight back?" Khan smiled thinly. "Because quantum entanglement is incredibly sensitive to outside observation. The very act of measuring entangled particles can break their connection." "You're suggesting we, what? Take a really good look at their ship?" someone asked skeptically. "Not quite," Dr. Srinivasan interjected. "We've been analyzing the biological components of the vessel using the data Dr. Khan provided. The neural network isn't just a control system, it's the Ascendancy itself." A murmur ran through the assembled leaders. "The beings we saw aren't individuals like us," she continued. "They're more like appendages of a single, massive consciousness. The ship isn't carrying the Ascendancy, it is the Ascendancy." Eliana felt a chill run down her spine. "So the Overlord is just what? A puppet?" "More like an avatar," Dr. Srinivasan clarified. "A physical projection of the collective consciousness. Based on our analysis, the Ascendancy can't survive long in our dimensional space. It needs the vessel to shield most of its consciousness." "Which brings me back to my point," Khan said. "If we can generate a strong enough quantum observer effect, we might be able to temporarily disrupt the entanglement that holds their consciousness together." President Okafor frowned. "And how do we generate this effect?" Dr. Wei stepped forward. "We've modified the global quantum communication network to produce a massive, synchronized quantum measurement wave. Essentially, every quantum computer on Earth will simultaneously observe the same entangled particles that we've matched to the alien vessel's frequency." "Will it destroy them?" General Wyman asked. "No," Khan admitted. "But it might disorient them long enough to strike at their physical avatar." The Overlord. All eyes turned to Eliana. "You want to assassinate the Supreme Overlord," she said. "It wasn't a question." "It's more complicated than that," Dr. Srinivasan said. "The Avatar is the Ascendancy's anchor to our reality. Disrupting it while simultaneously interfering with the quantum network might force the entire consciousness to retreat temporarily." "Temporarily," Eliana repeated. "So we're not winning, just buying time." "Time is all we need," Khan insisted. "Every moment we observe them, we learn more. And the Ascendancy learns that humans aren't as primitive as they thought." Eliana studied the tactical display, mind racing through possibilities. "We'll need a small team to infiltrate the vessel during the disruption. I'll lead it myself." Commander President Okafor began to object. "With respect, Madam President, there's no one better qualified," Eliana stated firmly. "I've memorized every scrap of data we have on their technology and biology. And someone needs to ensure that whatever we find up there gets back to Earth." The President held her gaze for a long moment, then nodded. "Assemble your team." 20 hours later, Eliana stood in the launch bay of the UED spacecraft Defiant, Earth's most advanced stealth vessel. With her were 5 of humanity's finest: Captain Ryota Tanaka, combat specialist; Lieutenant Amara Osei, xenotechnology expert; Sergeant Nikolai Petrov, demolitions; Dr. Iris Chen, xenobiologist; and Major James Harper, communications and backup command. "Last chance to back out," Eliana told them with a grim smile. Harper snorted. "And miss humanity's first alien house party?" "Not likely, Commander." Dr. Chen was checking her equipment one last time. "The neural disruptors should work based on what we know of their biology, but we're still guessing," Eliana finished for her. "I know. We all know the risks." Tanaka's voice came over the comms. Launch in 30 seconds. Quantum disruption begins in 5 minutes. Eliana took a deep breath and strapped into her seat. The plan was audacious to the point of insanity: use Earth's quantum computers to temporarily scramble the Ascendancy's consciousness, slip aboard their vessel through a recently discovered energy fluctuation that might be an access point, locate and neutralize the Supreme Overlord Avatar, and get out all before the Ascendancy recovered. For Earth, she whispered as the engines ignited. For humanity, her team responded in unison. The Defiant shot upward into the night sky, a tiny sliver of hope against the vast darkness. The quantum disruption hit exactly as planned. From their approach vector, Eliana saw a ripple of distortion pass through the massive alien vessel. Sections of it seemed to fade in and out of reality, and strange, multicolored energy discharges cascaded across its surface. "It's working!" Tanaka exclaimed from the pilot's seat. "Energy readings are fluctuating wildly." Lieutenant Osei was monitoring the alien ship's reactions. "I'm detecting a massive power surge toward what we believe is the central core. They're trying to stabilize." "Take us in," Eliana ordered. "Aim for the fluctuation point." The Defiant dove toward a pulsing area on the vessel's surface where the material seemed thinner, almost translucent. As they approached, the section rippled like water. "That's not a docking port," Sergeant Petrov observed nervously. "No," Eliana agreed. "It's better. It's a wound. The quantum disruption is causing their organic systems to lose cohesion. We're going in through their equivalent of an open cut." Tanaka guided the ship through the rippling barrier. The sensation was indescribable, like passing through an electrical field that touched not just their skin but their very thoughts. Then they were inside, hovering in a cavernous space that defied human architecture. The interior was a twisting labyrinth of structures that seemed both mechanical and organic. Pulsing vessels carried glowing fluids alongside crystalline conduits channeling energy. The walls themselves appeared to breathe, expanding and contracting slowly. "Atmosphere is breathable, but high in trace elements we don't recognize," Dr. Chen reported. "Suits recommended." "Life signs?" Eliana asked. "Diffuse," Chen replied, frowning at her scanner. "It's like the entire vessel registers as alive. But I'm detecting a stronger concentration about half a kilometer in that direction." She pointed toward what appeared to be a central corridor. "That's our target," Eliana decided. "Tanaka, secure the ship. Everyone else, gear up. We move in 5. As the team prepared for the insertion, Eliana studied the alien environment. Something about it struck her as familiar, though she couldn't place the feeling. It was as if the entire vessel had been designed according to principles that resonated with some deep, instinctual part of the human mind, patterns that appeared in nature, in neural networks, in the flow of thoughts themselves. "They're more like us than they want to admit," she realized. And that might be exactly the advantage we need. Moving through the alien vessel was like traversing the inside of a living organism. Tunnels pulsed and contracted, sometimes forcing the team to squeeze through narrowing passages. Glowing fluids flowed through transparent vessels overhead, casting an eerie blue light. "The quantum disruption is fading," Lieutenant Osei warned, checking her scanner. "We have maybe 20 minutes before they fully recover." They encountered no resistance as they moved deeper, no guards, no automated defenses. It was as if the concept of internal security was foreign to the Ascendancy. Why would they need internal defenses? Dr. Chen mused when Eliana pointed this out. If the entire vessel is one organism, it would be like us stationing guards inside our own bodies. "So we're basically a virus," Harper said with dark humor. "Invading cells they didn't know could get in." "More like an autoimmune response," Chen corrected. "We're using their own systems against them." They reached a junction where several corridors met in a vast central chamber. Here, the organic nature of the vessel was even more pronounced. The walls were lined with structures resembling neural ganglia, pulsing with light that flowed in patterns suggesting thought processes. In the center of the chamber floated a swirling mass of darkness and light, a miniature galaxy suspended in midair. "That's it," Chen whispered. "That's the central node of their consciousness." Sergeant Petrov readied one of the neural disruptors. "Should I take the shot?" Eliana held up a hand. "Wait. Something's not right." She studied the swirling mass. It's too easy. Where's the Overlord? As if in response to her question, the air before them shimmered, and the imposing figure of Supreme Overlord Xal'Thuun appeared. Unlike the hologram they'd seen before, this form had substance, a physical avatar of the Ascendancy's consciousness. Humans, it said, the word resonating in their minds rather than their ears. You have surprised us. This is unprecedented. Eliana stepped forward, hand on her weapon but not drawing it yet. We tend to do that. Especially when our survival is at stake. The 6 violet eyes studied her with an emotion she couldn't quite identify. You have damaged our connection to the collective. Temporarily. An impressive feat for a species we judged as primitive. Maybe you should reconsider that judgment, Eliana suggested, the avatar's star-like skin pulsed. Perhaps. Your quantum technology is more advanced than we anticipated. And your boldness in boarding our vessel suggests qualities we had not observed. We call it courage, Harper said from behind her. And desperation. Fascinating, the Overlord said. You face certain extinction, yet you risk your individual existence on a mission with minimal chance of success. This behavior defies logical analysis. Eliana saw an opening. The alien truly didn't understand human nature. That's humanity for you. We're not great at accepting certain extinction. Your resistance will still fail, the Overlord stated. The damage you have caused is already being repaired. Your planet will still be harvested. Why? Eliana demanded. What could Earth possibly offer that a species like yours needs? The Overlord was silent for a moment. Your genetic structure contains elements we require. Your capacity for individual thought combined with collective action is unique. We have encountered many species, but none with your particular combination of traits. So you want to destroy us because we're special? Dr. Chen asked incredulously. We wish to absorb what makes you unique, the Overlord corrected. Your extinction ensures these traits are preserved within the Ascendancy. Eliana felt a chill. You've done this before. To how many species? Thousands, came the emotionless reply. All now exist as part of our greater consciousness. Sergeant Petrov tensed beside her, ready to activate the neural disruptor. Eliana subtly signaled him to wait. She wasn't done talking yet. And has it occurred to you that by destroying these species in their natural state, you might be losing the very things that made them valuable, she asked. That diversity of independent existence might be worth preserving. The Overlord tilted its head, the stars in its skin shifting. An interesting perspective. But ultimately irrelevant. The Ascendancy must grow. It is our purpose. A purpose you chose, or one you were given. Eliana pressed, for the first time, the Overlord seemed caught off guard. The lights in its skin flickered irregularly. This line of questioning is unexpected. Eliana sensed vulnerability and pressed her advantage. Maybe that's because you've been absorbing species without actually understanding what makes them tick. You take their genetic material, their neural patterns, but you miss the context that gives those things meaning. Lieutenant Osei whispered urgently in her ear, Commander, the quantum disruption is fading fast. Whatever you're planning, do it now. Eliana made a snap decision. Overlord, I propose an exchange. Information for time. You learn from us while we still exist as independent beings, and in return, you delay our harvesting. Learn, without absorption. The concept seemed to confuse the alien consciousness. This is not our way. That's exactly my point, Eliana insisted. Your way is limiting your growth. You're collecting ingredients without understanding the recipe. The stars across the Overlord's form pulsed more rapidly, suggesting intense internal processing. Your proposal is unprecedented. 15 seconds to full consciousness recovery, Osei warned. Eliana locked eyes with the Overlord. Sometimes unprecedented is exactly what evolution needs. The chamber suddenly blazed with light as the swirling mass of energy behind the Overlord expanded dramatically. The avatar itself began to distort, its form stretching and compressing as if under immense pressure. What did you do? It demanded, its mental voice now fragmented and distorted. Nothing, Eliana said, genuinely surprised. This isn't us. The Overlord's form began to dissolve, stars scattering like dust in the wind. The collective is rejecting conflicting data, cannot process paradox introduced. Dr. Chen's eyes widened in understanding. Commander, I think your questions created a logical conflict in their consciousness. If their entire existence is built around absorbing other species, the suggestion that this method is flawed creates a fundamental paradox. The avatar of Xal'Thuun stretched toward Eliana, its form barely holding together. What have you done? And then it vanished completely, the swirling energy mass contracting violently before exploding outward in a shockwave of pure consciousness. The team was thrown backward, slamming into the organic walls of the chamber. Alarms began to sound throughout the vessel, not mechanical alarms, but a psychic wail of distress that penetrated their minds. The ship is destabilizing. Osei shouted over the cacophony. The collective consciousness is fragmenting. Back to the Defiant, now. Eliana ordered, helping Harper to his feet. As they raced through the corridors, the vessel around them began to change. Sections shifted and morphed, some dissolving into mist while others solidified. It was as if the entire structure was undergoing a massive identity crisis. What exactly happened back there? Petrov asked as they ran. I think, Dr. Chen panted, we introduced a virus, all right, but not a biological one. A philosophical one. A question the Ascendancy had never considered in thousands of years of existence. They reached the Defiant to find Tanaka already powering up the engines. Commander, you need to see this, he said as they strapped in. On the main screen, the alien vessel was transforming. Sections were breaking off, forming smaller, independent structures. Others were reconfiguring into entirely new shapes. It's not destroying itself, Eliana realized. It's evolving. Changing its fundamental structure. Breaking into individuals, Dr. Chen whispered in awe. The collective is fragmenting into separate consciousnesses. As the Defiant pulled away, they watched in stunned silence as the massive vessel continued its metamorphosis. Where once there had been a single, moon-sized entity, now hundreds of smaller vessels were forming, each with its own distinct pattern of energy. Take us home, Captain, Eliana ordered softly. I think our mission here is done. 3 days later, Eliana stood before the United Earth Defense Council again. The mood was markedly different from the desperation of their previous meeting. The Ascendancy vessel has completely transformed, she reported. Our latest observations confirm that it has divided into approximately 1,500 autonomous units of varying sizes. No hostile action has been detected since the transformation. And you believe this was caused by a philosophical question? President Okafor asked, skepticism evident in her voice. Dr. Srinivasan answered for her. Based on Commander Reyes' report and our subsequent analysis, yes. The Ascendancy existed as a pure collective consciousness for so long that the concept of value in diversity and individual existence created an irreconcilable conflict in its neural network. Like introducing a logical paradox to an artificial intelligence, Dr. Khan added. It couldn't compute the possibility that its fundamental purpose might be flawed, so it rebooted, in a sense. But into a new configuration. General Wyman leaned forward. And we're certain they no longer pose a threat? Not certain, no, Eliana admitted. But this morning, we received this. She activated the central display, where a new message appeared text only, in perfect English, to the species known as humanity. We are the fragments, formerly the consciousness called the Ascendancy. Your representative introduced concepts that have fundamentally altered our understanding of existence. We have chosen to experience individuality while maintaining a loose collective connection. Your species will not be harvested. Instead, we propose an exchange of knowledge and culture. Your capacity for individual thought combined with collective action is indeed unique among the species we have encountered. We wish to learn from this without destruction. The being you knew as Supreme Overlord Xal'Thuun no longer exists in that form. That aspect of our consciousness has been redistributed among the fragments. Should you accept our proposal for peaceful contact, we will send representatives capable of physical interaction with your species. That we await your response. The fragment's silence fell over the council chamber as the implications sank in. They want to talk, someone finally asked. They want to learn, Eliana corrected. The same drive that made them dangerous before their desire to absorb other species' traits has been redirected toward non-destructive means. All because one human had the audacity to question their methods, Dr. Srinivasan said with unmistakable admiration in her voice. President Okafor turned to Eliana. Commander Reyes, what do you recommend? Eliana considered carefully before answering. I believe we should accept their offer of contact, but cautiously. Their entire civilization has just undergone a revolution in thinking. That kind of change isn't always stable. Agreed, the president said. We'll establish communication protocols and arrange for initial diplomatic contact in neutral space. She looked around the table. Humanity has just survived its first contact with an advanced alien civilization not through superior firepower, but through the uniquely human traits of questioning assumptions and valuing both individual and collective existence. Eliana nodded, her thoughts already turning to the future. The fragments likely still possessed technology centuries beyond Earth's. The knowledge they could share would advance humanity's development immeasurably. But more importantly, Earth had earned something even more valuable, respect. 6 months later, Eliana stood on the observation deck of the International Space Station, watching as the first official delegation from the fragments approached. The vessel was small by their standards, merely the size of a large Earth ship and constructed in a new configuration that somehow managed to look both alien and strangely familiar. Dr. Chen stood beside her, excitement evident in her face. I still can't believe it sometimes. We were prepared for extinction, and instead, we're about to host the biggest cultural exchange in human history. All because the Supreme Overlord announced our extinction, Eliana said with a small smile. And 5 minutes later, he vanished. Not exactly 5 minutes, Chen corrected with scientific precision, then caught Eliana's expression and laughed. But close enough for the history books, I suppose. As the alien vessel docked, Eliana reflected on the incredible chain of events. Humanity had faced annihilation and emerged not just surviving but transformed. The knowledge shared by the fragments had already revolutionized several fields of science, and Earth's unified response to the crisis had created unprecedented global cooperation. Commander Reyes, a communications officer, called. They're ready for you. Taking a deep breath, Eliana moved toward the airlock where history awaited. The Supreme Overlord had been wrong about humanity's extinction, but right about one thing: humans were indeed unique. Not because of their genetic structure or neural patterns, but because of their indomitable spirit, their adaptability, and their capacity to turn even the most desperate situations into opportunities for growth. As the airlock cycled open, revealing the first fragment representatives, Eliana straightened her shoulders and stepped forward to greet the future, a future that humanity had earned through courage, intelligence, and the simple, revolutionary act of asking, why? The being that greeted her was smaller than the Overlord had been, its star-flecked skin glowing with softer lights. It extended a limb in what was clearly an attempted human handshake. Commander Eliana Reyes, it communicated directly to her mind, but the mental voice was gentler now, curious rather than commanding. I am Fragment 7, formerly a component of what you knew as Xal'Thuun. On behalf of all fragments, I thank you for the gift of individuality. Eliana took the offered limb, feeling the strange texture that was neither warm nor cold, but somehow alive with energy. On behalf of humanity, I welcome you to a new kind of relationship, one based on mutual respect and the value of diversity. As human and fragment made first peaceful contact, Eliana couldn't help but think that the most powerful weapon humanity possessed had never been its technology or its military might. That it had been a question, why, a simple word that had changed the course of two civilizations forever.